Euros were going on, and we wanted to watch a few games, and then we missed a few. We wanted to cover a couple of games, but it never really happened. I had work in the morning and just couldn't get around to it. So we thought that today we would do a kind of roundup of what we've seen in the group stages. The round of 16 matches start today. So obviously, a lot of excitement and a lot of games going to happen. So we'll take a look at the possible matchups and who we think have the upper hand, and also talk about some of the learnings from the group stages, what stood out, what didn't, and so on. Tom, what
Mhm.
about you?
Yeah, hi Dev. Yeah, it's been a while. We wanted to do this every single day. Oh, my camera is out of focus a bit. There we go. Yeah, we don't want to do this every day, but life gets in the way, as we like to say, because it's true. It's true. But yeah, back to the Euros. It has been a good group stages, I think. It started off really, really well, and we had some bangers like Germany and Spain came out, guns blazing. They showed everyone what they're the favorites for the whole tournament, and then it kind of fizzled out, right? I think there was this mid and late part of the group stage that was kind of not as exciting. There were teams who were meant to do a lot better, but then underperformed. The underdogs tried their best, and some of them really did do well. There were some couple of upsets, a couple of things that we did not expect. But overall, I felt like the quality kind of dropped or fizzled out towards the end of the group stages, and not necessarily because tactically it was all over the place. It was more like big teams playing it safe or just not clicking to the extent that we wanted them to click, because some teams like Belgium and France and England, they have the firepower, they have the names and individual quality, but they just couldn't do it, right? They just couldn't do it as well as we maybe would have hoped them to do, because ultimately those are the teams that you look at when you want excitement and goals and all these very, very flashy plays and goals and actions, but we didn't get that. So what I'm trying to say is that it started off well, then fizzled out, but then now going to the round of 16, those teams will really, really have to buckle down and be like, okay, now we have to bring our A game, because now is the do or die situation. And I feel like if there's a time to see them perform, it is now, right? It is now. So that's my main takeaway. But then again, I'm not sure if you feel this way, Dev. Maybe you have a point of view on that, but it feels like some teams were punished for doing well, while some other teams did not do so well. But now the bracket is more favorable towards them. So I feel like the whole structure of the tournament is kind of all over the place. I mean, you have these teams that have performed really well. They have topped the groups or come in second, and now they have very, very difficult opponents, or they will get very difficult opponents if they get past the round of 16. And to me, that's very punishing for a team that has performed well in the group stages. It doesn't really make sense. So it's just all over the place.
Yeah, I was thinking about it, but I was comparing it with the last national, like, kind of tournament, which was the World Cup, and the World Cup was much different. Like all the games, well, I found that like it was far more entertaining than the Euros. Yes, you're right. Like I felt the same thing. Like in the first week, I think there was this hype expectation, what have you, and but then as it went along, I think it kind of fizzled out a little bit. Some games, what have you, but. Overall, I think we didn't get to see the kind of upsets that one gets to see in generally these NT competitions, right?
Mhm.
That didn't happen. That always makes it more interesting. Like the names that should be there are still there, to be entirely honest.
Mhm.
Like none of them, there's,
Yeah.
there's no shock exit that has happened, which would have made it more interesting. In the World Cup,
Mhm.
like, yeah, that's what I felt. Uh, Also, the number of goals scored, and that doesn't mean anything, but people like these tournaments are for those things. Like there's a lot of
Mhm.
goals scored or saves made or what have you, and the media gets into a hype, and then people talk about it, and there's just buzz all over. I think that's not been there, and I don't know, is the level of football incredible or something? I don't know. NT football isn't meant for that. You never so that's for club football mostly, but so yeah, it kind of underwhelming to me, for me
Mhm.
specifically. What has happened? Some games were really good, of course,
Mhm.
um, but the fact that as you called out, like England, France, they didn't really pull their weight, but they're still there.
Just
They
there,
didn't
yeah.
really, they probably shouldn't have been there based on how they have played.
Mhm.
Uh,
It's more like to do so. See these teams: France, Belgium, England. You would expect them to score goals, play this exciting football because they have the names to do it, they have the profiles to do it. But instead, what we've seen is more of a more of a defensive, play it safe kind of approach. And that was one of the main themes of the tournament: is deep blocks, deep 4-5-1 blocks, not as much of pressing, not as much of a flamboyant, expansive football. Yes, you have Spain, who obviously can do that and will do that in the tournament, but then, and Germany, of course, as well. But then you have these teams that prefer to kind of, I don't know, squeeze past their opponents. Is that the right term? Because they would sit deep, invite pressure, hit you on the break, maybe score one goal, and that was it, right? Or even play for draws. That was also a theme. So these 4-5-1 blocks, and then you had long shots, you had long balls. Those were the teams of the tournament. And I feel like even though that style of play can be effective, as you see, because all those teams have progressed ultimately, it doesn't necessarily make for very exciting and entertaining football, which is obviously what we want to see more of. Now, there's this argument, okay, this is cup football, so of course teams will go down that route because it's safer and it still kind of doesn't guarantee you anything, but it kind of gives you this not edge, but it gives you a good tool to progress, right? It gives you some good chances to progress because it's less risky. Now, I would expect this from quote unquote lower teams, right? Teams that don't have the individual quality to kind of go toe to toe with France. Okay, obviously you can sit deep and you can wait for your chances and then take them well. Obviously, that's a path you can take. But then I would not expect it from England or Belgium or France. I wouldn't. I just wouldn't, because you're there to be the dominant force. You're there to be the protagonist. And I felt like England in particular, they score a goal, they'll just drop deep purposefully. So, and it's doesn't really make sense to me when you have such a roster. And it comes down to how you platform the players. We keep saying that. If you have those attacking forces, so what is football all about? It's about identifying which of your players are the most important ones in your team, so key players in your team, and identifying when and how you want them to be on the ball. So if I have a Bellingham and a Kane, what is the main situation I want to find them in, right? So where do I want Kane to receive the ball? Where do I want Bellingham to receive the ball? And I feel like England have not done a good job of identifying and then putting those situations into place, right? So that was the main thing for me. And the same goes for France as well, or Belgium even. They have similar problems. Yes, they played it safe a bit, but at the same time, they've not maximized their main or key players. That was the thing.
Yeah, and I think yeah, people played a little bit safe, and because I think they wanted to guarantee movement into the next round, but it made for not so interesting football at times. But that said, okay, let's keep moving forward. Teams that stood out for me, at least. Obviously, there was Germany and Spain who came out and like it was interesting to watch them play. And the other side, I thought Austria was pretty good in terms of just the setup, just the team structure, how they played together. I was quite impressed with the way they came out. I think some of the lesser talked about opponents. I think a couple of matches. I think Croatia. I expected more for Croatia. Really, I know. I'm sorry, Tom. I know you.
No,
Fair. That's a sad topic for you. I get it, but I expected more. But I have to say that for how they played, I think it's fair what has happened.
it is.
Very fair.
Absolutely.
That they haven't gone, but they just didn't come out of the tracks at all this time around. And maybe that's pretty good. Maybe that's the change that's the push that they needed, and then there'll be a change, and then the next Croatia that we see in the World Cup is going to be much better. But yeah, I thought that was pretty okay in the sense of that for if you play like that, you can't you can't progress. So that happened. But I think from that perspective, I think Portugal didn't really play that well, but they're through. And there are quite a few, like even England, they for all the firepower, as you mentioned, but they're through. So I thought for me, I think it was Spain and Germany who stood out a little bit, and then Austria for sure. And then I think a couple of games from Slovenia, a couple of games from Georgia. It was interesting to see them come out and just play, defend. You don't know these, but even Hungary. I think a couple of matches in the beginning, just to see the setup, the way they approached the game, and then how they competed. So that was good. And among players, I think I think obviously, yeah, people have talked about Nico. People have talked about Musiala. I think Musiala played pretty well a couple of games. I think Sabitzer has been insane from an Austria perspective. I think Fabian Ruiz, if I'm not
Hmm.
mistaken, pretty good. It's interesting the names that have actually come up in terms of ratings or what have you. I think Mamadashvili in terms of goalkeeping, Tony
Hmm.
Cruz again, right from Germany. I think Cucurella played like a solid shift for Spain. Ericsson again came out for Denmark. I think Unai Simon for Spain. So I think there were like these different players who just stood out. Um, and some were surprising. But I didn't expect Cucurella to be like just out there so much. But and Fabian Ruiz also, though he's a good player, but we didn't expect these kind of, like amazing performances game after game from him.
Hmm.
Who are the so? What were your picks from that perspective?
Player picks. Okay, so let's see.
Okay.
Okay, so let's see. Yes, I would agree that the Spain wingers have obviously been the big focal point because they are at the center of everything good that happens for Spain currently. And yes, this is a different Spain, a more direct, more vertical Spain, and that there's nothing wrong about that. I feel like this Spain has more tools to hurt you. Ultimately, they're not as rigid. They're not maybe the traditional Spain that we would expect to see, but they do have a lot of that as well. Only this time around, they have an additional tool on the sides, on the wings, that can actually penetrate and be very direct, be very tricky to stop. And I feel like that gives them this other dimension and gives them even more tools to succeed. So yes, Nico Williams and Lamine have been really, really good. Gakpo has been really good for Netherlands as well. He steps up when he plays for the national team, and it shows, and it matters a lot for Netherlands. So I would definitely put him in there as well. Musiala, obviously, Gundogan has been really good for Germany as well. Fabian Ruiz, yeah, you mentioned him. He was very, very good, and especially in the match they won. He's a different kind of profile, right? He gets up front a lot. He gets a lot of shots on. He's a constant goal threat, and I feel like that gives this Spain even more firepower on top of what they have on the wings. And it's very important because the wingers are tricky. They are very direct. They are very fast. But as you pointed out way back then on one of our first streams, they're not really goal scorers, right? They will create a lot, but they won't score a lot themselves. So you need someone like Fabian Ruiz who kind of complements that. And you have Morata, obviously, who can score goals. But Ruiz has been that constant goal threat down the middle that really, really gels well with a wing pairing of Nico and Lamine. And I feel like that was also a big part of Spain's success. Then you have someone like Mikel Tadze, who scored like 3 goals, I think. It was a three. I think it was a 3 goals. And you would not expect someone like that from a team like that to be as dominant practically. So there's that. So who else? I don't even know. Mamardashvili, yeah, excellent elite shot stopper. He's not really a goalkeeper who plays well with his feet, but he is someone
He's a
who
great
can.
shot stopper, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
He's an
So
impact
he's
player. You want him in cup tournaments. You want a goalkeeper like that in
exactly,
cup tournaments.
especially for teams who are not as dominant. And then I think for those teams, elite shot stoppers have more value than ball playing goalkeepers. Whereas you have a dominant team who will dominate possession, who will be on the ball a lot, who depends on that progression from the back. I think elite ball playing goalkeepers have more value in such teams. But since Mamardashvili plays for a team that's not necessarily in that category, I think you get more value from just having an elite shot stopper. So he's been immense for his team, and I feel like he has had a good season overall, even in club football as well. So those will be my picks. Of course, Musiala. I'm not sure if I mentioned him. Musiala has been absolutely brilliant as well, but we know that. We know that.
I really like Wirtz, Florian Wirtz. He was also pretty good. Like he's going to be one of the
Mm,
names in the next transfer window for sure.
absolutely,
Um,
he will be. He will be. Yeah, yeah. I would agree. I would agree. But that the whole Germany team is set up in the way that maximizes those between the lines players. What they do is they stretch you out with a fullback. They play a back three, and then they kind of create space in between the lines for Gundogan, Musiala, and Verts to kind of operate there. You have Havertz, who's the kind of focal point up top, and I think this setup kind of it creates an environment in which Musiala and Wirtz and Gundogan can do a lot of damage. We've seen that the best against Scotland, was it, in the first match day, where they kind of stretched Scotland and they created horizontal and vertical space between the lines, and they were just running riot, right? If you create that platform for them where they have a lot of space and time in those pockets in between the lines, you're just dead, right? They will massacre you. They will absolutely dominate the game, and they will take over quickly. And that's what happens. And if you do that, and you have the quality that you have in individual quality, that's how you set up your team for success. Sorry, I can't speak. So those will be my picks. I don't know who else.
Any player that absolutely stood out for you? Any player that you felt let down, that you expect a lot more? Bellingham, probably.
Yeah, the whole England squad was kind of meh. Yeah, Bellingham had a good match day one. Obviously, he scored a goal. He was man of the match. But then after that, he just wasn't there. He just wasn't there. But that was
What about
more
Mbappe? Same, right?
Mbappe.
Mbappe and even Dembele.
Yeah, Dembele is what he is. We know what he is. Mbappe, he was injured for one week, so not 1 week, one game. So he still has value, right? And we see that without him, France kind of suffered. They needed a completely different game plan. Griezmann, he just seemed very tired to me. He just seemed like he couldn't really play to his usual standard. Yeah, of course, he was still everywhere. He connects the thirds. He drops deep. He presses very high if he has to. But he just felt like, very tired. Very tired. I feel like he wasn't really at his best. So yeah, maybe Griezmann as well. But yeah, Bellingham, Griezmann, Mbappe doesn't. Lukaku, he scored a bunch of goals that got ruled out in the end, so he didn't really do particularly well. Kane as well. All the strikers that you would expect to score lots of goals, they kind of didn't do that. Who else? I don't know. That will be my picks. Yeah. So for now, yeah.
All right. So now let's go through the bracket and let's go by the games. So let's start on. We have Spain, Georgia, Germany, Denmark, Portugal, Slovenia, and France, Belgium. Let's start with these four. Spain, Georgia. Let's go with that one. You take it, and then I'll take it from there.
This one is it's very straightforward, I think. Spain are the overwhelming favorites. Not to mention that they have beaten Georgia, and it was in the qualification round. I'm not sure, but they have beaten them like a couple of times in recently. So I think this is pretty straightforward. Spain to progress fairly easily. I would say this would be a massive upset for me. Yes, Georgia have their tools to kind of do some damage, but I wouldn't expect it against this Spain, because this Spain is rightfully one of the favorites of the tournament. And I feel like there's not much to take away from this game. I think Spain will progress. Now, it's just a matter of how many goals they score.
Yeah, I think Spain is the favorite, though I don't think it'll be that easy with Georgia as well. I think Georgia's played well. We'll see, of course. Now, coming back to Germany, Denmark, I think it's Germany, even though Denmark's okay, right? But I do think it's still Germany. And I think we're heading for a Germany-Spain quarterfinal. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So, and that will be interesting, because that will be at least one good team, and that'll make it interesting, of course. But let's talk about the situation if that happens. Based on what we have seen till now, Germany versus Spain, who do you fancy?
At the moment, I would say Spain have a slight edge. We've seen that teams can shut down Germany. Switzerland did a really good job of that. Now, Spain have had a very tough group stage, right? They've had Italy, they've had Croatia, they have Albania, and they passed that test with flying colors. So I feel like at the moment they are really flying high. On top of that, they managed to rest players in match day 3, so they should be fresh, they should be hungry, they should be confident. So I feel I would give Spain a slight edge, even though Germany are a team that resembles a club almost the most, and that's the highest compliment you can give an international team at this stage of the tournament. And it will be it feels like a final, right? It feels like this should be the final game, but we get it in the quarterfinals already potentially. So it'll be a big clash, but I will still give it to Spain. Slight advantage to Spain. How about you?
I don't know. I'm 50-50 on this.
Yeah.
I think Germany can edge it, to be entirely honest with you. I'm not very confident about the Spain midfield. Yes, Ruiz has been amazing, and he has been he has been pretty effective through that middle. But I'm not as confident about our midfield as Germany. And from a forward perspective, yes, Lamine and Nico have been great in stretching the play, but they haven't really scored that many number of goals when it comes to the attack. They've created the attack. They're the reason why the goals were created, but they haven't really. But when I look into Germany, I think there's tilt a little bit tilt in there, but it can go anyway. It's ultimately it's a game of football. Anybody can win. But if you ask me, I'm a bit 50-50 on this, and I think Germany has a pretty good chance of going through if it comes to that. If there's no upset before that, so let's keep going. Then we have Portugal, Slovenia, and France, Belgium. Let's go with Portugal, Slovenia. What do you think?
Still a slight edge to Portugal. I think we're yet to see them fully click, but just based on the individual quality of the players, although Slovenia have been really good. Matjaž Kek, the coach, I know him because he did a stint back in Croatia, back in the first Croatian league, and he's a good tactician, right? He's there to kind of set up the team well, and I think Slovenia have really maybe overperformed. Is that the right word for them? Because I think to see them here and not to see Croatia or even Serbia in the round of 16, that was a bit of a surprise, even though, not a massive one, but still a surprise nonetheless. But against this Portugal with a Cristiano Ronaldo who's not scored yet, but he will be hungry to do that. And of course, some quality in there as well. Bruno Fernandes, Rafael Leao. I think they have the players to kind of tilt the favors, to tilt the tide in their favor, I think. And I will still back them to progress.
All right. So let's if it's Portugal takes it Slovenia, then we have France versus Belgium. This can be an interesting one. Belgium is like you can't really predict which Belgium will turn up on that day, but they have some good players for sure. And if it goes their way, anything can happen. But on current form, probably we'll say it's France.
Yeah, I would agree. France over Belgium, even though that's a clash of teams that have underperformed, right? Both teams, okay, yes, they've gotten the results they need, but when you look at the quality of the players, look at the even the tactical quality, because Belgium have been set up really well. They've not been underwhelming tactically. It's just that there was some issues that they couldn't score goals, and a lot of goals got disallowed and all that stuff. But just purely based on the individual quality, those teams can go head to head. But I will still back France a bit more because they have created a lot. I think they have the second highest XG in the tournament. They have the third most big chances missed as well. So they do create a lot. It's just the finishing has been subpar, and obviously they've missed Mbappe in one of those match days. So I think once Mbappe comes back and France can actually set up the way that they like to set up normally, I think they still have an edge. Now it won't be easy because this Belgium can still do damage. They have the second lowest XG against us, so they do defend really well as well. So it will be a tight game, I would say. Not many goals, but then I would back France to kind of slight advantage over Belgium.
So then we are saying France versus Portugal.
Oh, is it? Oh, yeah. And then again, France would be my favorite in that game as well. Same reasons, basically. We've not seen a lot of tactical versatility from the Champs, and not really the optimal version of this France, but they will still power through, I feel like.
And if that happens, so then you have France coming up on that side, and then we have either Germany or Spain, which means two good teams are going out for sure.
Yeah,
from this side of the bracket.
See, yeah, that's what we talked about. So all these teams that have done well in the group stages, well in terms of results and getting the first and second spots, they've all been put on the same side of the bracket, and it feels like they're not being rewarded for that success in the group stages. That's my main kind of takeaway from this tournament so far. And now, yes, we get these extremely exciting games on paper, at least, like big teams facing each other, but they've not been rewarded for their hard work, right? I feel like that's the case here. And ultimately, it might make for good viewing, but they won't feel as good about that. I don't feel so. I don't know if it's so it's France, Portugal, and France beat Portugal. They will meet someone, either Spain or Germany, right, in the semifinals, or in the semis, yeah.
It's quarterfinals, right? So whoever wins, we're meeting one of them in the quarters, semis, which means, I mean, almost three teams are guaranteed to lose out. Good teams from this side of the bracket. Yeah.
Yeah, and then the other side of the bracket gets
That's
slightly
interesting. You have
easier.
Romania, Netherlands, and Austria,
Mm,
Turkey. So let's start with Romania, Netherlands. I think you'll give it to Netherlands, but they
yeah,
haven't been that awesome. Is there a chance of an upset here?
potentially. Although I feel Romania have used all their goals in the group stages. Now, can they replicate some of it here? But potentially, they do defend deep. I don't know. Just can they make an upset? I think if there's going to be an upset, it could be there potentially. Um, Maybe even can Slovakia upset England? I don't know. So this is where play it safe and play it really direct, defend deep, play on the counters, don't concede too many chances, but then take your chances. I think this is where it pays off the most, right? So these teams will be happy just sitting deep and defending and then scoring a goal and then somehow scraping past these opponents. I think they'll be happy with that and they can do that. And that's what this cup football is all about. So I feel like there could be an upset here because the Netherlands have not shown as much either. I don't think they've been overly impressive either, at least from my perspective. So there's a chance here. I would still give it to the Netherlands, but there is a chance here.
Okay, and then Austria, Turkey. It would feel like Austria, but I would say this is kind of 50-50 game. Turkey can go through as well. So there's an kind of like balanced.
It is. It feels like these are the two dark horses of the tournament, right? So Turkey's always kind of there in the conversation. Now, Austria have been really good. We've spoken about them a lot because they have this structure, that they have this this clarity of ideas that we say. And they press really high. They smother teams. They suffocate them with their press, and they're really good in transition from attack to defense and vice versa. They make these quick plays between the lines and through the lines. They put numbers into the box when attacking, so they have a lot of attacking firepower. They have a lot of intensity, a lot of energy, and they're also all on the same page. And I feel like that's the key to their success. On the other hand, Turkey, they're very good at counterattacking. They have pace on the wings. They can press as well, and usually they score from range, right? They score from range. They score from counterattack. So this the traditional underdog style of play that's very suited to this type of football. So I feel like it could go either way, as you said. It's very 50-50 to me, and two dark horses that could go all the way even.
Yeah. So if it's Turkey who's coming through on that side, or Austria, so that can be an interesting one. It can be Romania, it can be Netherlands, it can be Australia, anyone. But that would be interesting on what that throws up on that side of the bracket. And then the final four: England, Slovakia, and Switzerland, Italy. Let's start with England. You'd still give it to England, but yeah, will it be that easy? Is the question.
England need to they need to fix a lot of things, right? So the first thing is just the use of their players, the platforming of the profiles. It feels like they've just put out the best team in terms of names on the pitch, but they've not really looked at the balance of the team. They lack depth. They lack width as well. They need to play faster. They need their wide man to be one-on-one type of players. I don't know. The fullbacks have been overlapping a bit, but they don't have the profiles for that either. Trippier has been an issue as well. Kane has been very uninvolved in their overall play. He's had very few touches throughout the whole games, and I think that's a big issue, right? So they've looked like a good team defensively because they've not conceded goals, but offensively they don't do much, right? Slovakia, on the other hand, it will be a tough task because they don't really create a lot, but they've shown the combination play and the quickness of their play quite a few times. So they've been very impressive in that regard. I've not expected them to be so efficient in progressing down the lines and then kind of making those quick 1-2s and making them look so smooth and so precise. I've not really seen or expected that from them. However, they do put a lot of crosses into the box. They do make use of their set pieces, and they will press for turnovers as well. So I feel like they can upset England, although I will still give it to England at the end of the day, just due to the individual quality that they have.
And they do have a lot of individual quality. And you would bet that some of them will actually come true now that we are moving into the business end of the tournament. And finally, Switzerland and Italy. I think that'll be a good game, actually. Both teams are pretty good. Switzerland's played well. Italy's yeah, Italy, it's not the Italy of the past, but Italy's Italy. So I think that's going to be an
Yeah.
interesting game, and one never really knows. Yeah, that's also kind of iffy on who can actually get through, because I believe they both have equal chances of qualifying.
hmm Yeah, Switzerland have shown a lot. I mean, especially in the last game, it wasn't as exciting potentially, but they've shown a good defensive stint, right? So that was really good from them. What they do is they're very aggressive with their third man runs. I think that's what they do really well. So they can break the lines through third man actions. They don't really cross that well, but they do create essential overloads, and then they can create from there. So they do have the tools to kind of hurt this Italy. But Italy are, in a sense, that they're very Italian. They are very comfortable defending and then playing for the counters, but they're also pretty stable in possession as well, very composed, and they have the tools to hurt you. They like to cross as well. They like to play from through set plays as well, and it will be a very even matchup. The Switzerland team is one of the teams that I would put them in the dark horse category, and they can, if they manage to get past this Italy. Who they get? Who they get? They would get the winner of England and Slovakia. Is that right? Yeah. Hmm. It's still a favorable draw. I feel like, compared to being on the other side of the bracket, but it won't be easy for them. They are dark horse, but they don't really have the individual superiority in any of these games, which is a big factor in this Euros. I feel like.
But okay, let's take some puns. So okay, Netherlands versus Romania. Let's pick them. Let's go with Austria versus Turkey. Are we aligned?
Yeah, I think so.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So if it's Austria versus Netherlands
Austria.
in the who's winning that one?
I think if there was to be an upset on paper, so Netherlands is the favorite on paper, but I would give Austria a fair chance of progressing all the way, even because they've, on this side of the bracket, I think they've shown the clearest structure, the biggest identity, the biggest unity, and the biggest platform for their players. So I feel like they have that tactical edge over the teams that have the individual quality edge. So I feel like they could be the upset team all the way through that bracket. So I would still give it to Austria potentially.
Okay, so let's say Austria, another semifinal spot, correct? All
Mhm,
right, and then we have let's assume it's England against Slovakia, and let's
mhm.
assume it's Italy against Switzerland. Let's just go with that. It's England versus
Okay.
Italy. Who are we taking? I would go with Italy, actually. What do
It's a
you?
tough one. It's a really tough one. Unless England get their stuff together by that time, by that point in the tournament, yes, I would tend to agree. I think Italy can hurt them, and they can actually uh, take advantage over their flaws, right? So I think that's yeah. Let's go Italy. Let's go Italy.
All right, so then it's Italy, and then that's the last of the semifinal spot. So we have between Germany and Spain. Okay, you are Spain. I'm Germany.
Yeah, fair enough.
Between France and Portugal, we are agreed it's France, and then we
Mhm.
have between England. Between it's Austria, and then between Italy and England, let's go with Italy. So it's Austria, Italy, France, and Germany or Spain. Right? Is that the semi-final that we are looking at?
I think so. I think that's kind of not many upsets there. I
Not
think
many
we
upsets.
went.
Yeah, it's just going
Yeah,
very
we went.
plain and simple.
Yeah, we went down the very standard route, and it's fine. I mean, I think in these tournaments, that's kind of how it usually, well, not usually, but it often goes that way because of the individual quality of the teams that are meant to win. That's how they win in the end in this cups. So, but yeah, we'll see. Maybe someone surprises us. I think Austria are a team to look out for. I mean, there's Turkey as well, who can potentially do an upset as well. But other than that, Switzerland, maybe, I don't know. The
Yes,
left
Turkey
side of
and
the
Switzerland,
bracket.
we have options there for sure. Absolutely, that
Mm,
can come through the ranks, and there
mhm,
might be one of those teams that actually causes that upset, and it makes it much more interesting. The whole tournament becomes
mm,
much more interesting because of that. That can happen for sure.
mhm.
But yeah, if those were the four that we were having, uh, among those four, whom do you really bet to take it all the way?
It's between France and Spain at that point because if we assume that Germany are out, then it will have to be Spain and France, and between them two, I don't know. That would be a tough one. Depends on the form they are in, because a lot can change between now and then. This theoretical semifinal.
Oh yeah,
But at the moment, I would like to say Spain, but France are so they're just, I don't know. They're not as good, but they have the players to do it. Anything, so they can always surprise you. They can always go all the way, even though they might not deserve it, quote unquote. Whereas Spain, they have the individual quality, but not at the level of France, right? So they would have to be more of a team to win. Whereas France can be more of a collection of very superior individuals, if that makes sense. And I would always kind of back the team in that case, if the team can actually play as a collective. So I would go Spain, even though I know that France would probably take it.
yeah. And then just like it's out of context, and I was thinking like we should probably do this for the Copa America as well as going on. I was just watching the
Mm.
Uruguay game today, and it hit me like Marcelo Bielsa's first 2 years are so good anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Like the whole
Mm-hmm.
team looks completely different. Like Uruguay was playing so good today against Bolivia.
Mm-hmm.
It was nice watching them, and yeah, we should probably think about doing something like this for the Copa as well, because that's also
We
getting
could.
into the swing of things, and some
Mm.
really interesting games. I was very impressed, but also by James Rodriguez, um,
Mm-hmm.
real great performance. So yeah, we'll think about that. Okay, so that's where we are tonight. Obviously, the games start, and we'll possibly try and cover a few of them. A little bit more than we did in the group stage, probably, because and hopefully be able to do a little bit more of this and analyze the games. Uh, Anything else from you, Tom, before we sign off?
No, not much. I'm just looking at the questions. If we have any questions, we have Lucian asking Nico, Lamine, or Morata for fantasy. I do play fantasy football. I'm doing quite well in my group.
Yeah.
So just not to brag, but yeah, okay. Nico, Lamine, or Morata. I will have Nico in my fantasy group. Not sure if you play Dev, but I will have Nico in my group, definitely in my squad. Sorry, and then Lamine or Morata. I would. I wouldn't go for Lamine at the moment. I know he does a lot, but I wouldn't go for Lamine. I would go for Nico, and then if you want a striker, that from that game, yes, Morata would be the pick. But I'm not sure I'm gonna go with Morata. I think I'll go Gakpo, Mbappe, and then someone else. I'm not sure who, but Morata is a good pick. I think I would back him to score. Yeah, there we go.
And we weren't talking about Australia. We were talking about Austria.
I know
Austria is just sort of.
he's just yeah, he's trolling. He's trolling. Don't worry about him. I know that guy. I know the guy. A big shout out to him, but yeah, he's just trolling. He's a big troll. Um,
All right, so yeah,
he's
that's basically what it is. But yeah, those are the questions, and no other. But yeah, I mean, interesting. We'll have to look into how it pans out. Hopefully, we get a few better games. To be entirely honest with you, I would at least prefer it, because I genuinely last week I felt the games were really like flat. Most of them
they were
to the extent, and then there wasn't really that buzz or excitement about them. So it would be good to have some cracking games at least.
Yeah,
and
I think. Yeah, the last week of group stages was kind of playing it safe, especially teams wanted to progress. They wanted to do anything to progress, but it felt like even the teams that needed a good result to go through, they still played it safe, right? They still kind of had issues with kind of imposing themselves, right? So, and the thing is, now that we're in the knockout stages, we might see more of that. We might see more of playing it safe to progress. That's my worry. But then again, we'll have good teams facing off against one another, so I think that will kind of up the quality, hopefully up the quality, and then we see some better football. Although even that's subjective. Maybe people have enjoyed this type of football more than us, but who knows? Yeah, that will yeah.
Anyway, we'll watch the games tonight. It starts today, so obviously we'll watch it, and maybe we'll cover one of them as well later in the day. Depends on how things go. But thank you. We just wanted to give us a quick rundown on the brackets and what we feel, and just have a chat about how things are and what we can expect and how the tournament has been. So Let's hope for some more exciting games as they come up in the round 16 and the quarterfinals, and obviously it'll be interesting to watch that. Another 17 days to go, and then we are back with club football, which is what we live for. So looking forward to that as well.
Absolutely.
And Barca's transfer window, and I think like there'll be a lot to discuss back then. So we are excited about that. With that, thank you for joining, and Visca El Barca, and we'll see you on another stream pretty soon, and we'll be covering some of the games. We just don't know which ones, but we will cover a few.
That's very true. Yeah. Just before we go, a big shout out to Peter Kreshman, the guy who commented. He's a friend. So I know him. He's a very good guy, very knowledgeable. He likes to make these kind of jokes. So don't worry about that. And we love to have you, Peter. We hope to have more questions from you. So yeah, much love, my friend, and we'll see you in the next stream, hopefully.